So last night, Kaylee and I went up to Flagstaff to see Lamb because she was so excited about it. I was pretty excited about it as well, but she was over the moon about it. And I was like, all right, well, I mean, we got to drive like 2 fucking hours to go see this thing. But let's go. Let's support more indie art house horror in a wide theatrical release. And these are always those films that are baffling to me that they get wide releases, because these are not for mainstream audiences. And I feel very divided on this subject of like, should this get a wide release? Like, I don't know. On one hand, it's like, I like that people are being challenged and that they're releasing more unique films instead of just blockbusters and big studio films like that. But on the other hand, like, I know that more than half the audience is going to walk out of this thing absolutely disappointed, hating it. But I think at the end of the day, they just want to make money, and they also want to hopefully push some art out into the world and break up maybe the superhero movies or whatever. Not that I'm shitting on those. You guys know I really enjoy those movies. But this one, starring Numi Rapace, I think is how you say her name. And fuck if I know anybody else's name. But this is about a couple who live out in kind of the middle of nowhere, and they have a farm, and they have a bunch of sheep. And one day, a sheep gives birth to a lamb that happens to be like 75% human and 25% lamb. And it's really just kind of their relationship as they're raising this kid. And then they have an unexpected guest who shows. And okay. If you've seen the trailer, you know how bizarre the film will be. That being said, I saw some reviews on this one. And the reviews that I saw were saying like, oh, this movie was left too vague, that there wasn't enough explained, this and that. And these are from friends of mine who like slow shit. And so I went into it with, oh no, like, they're not going to tell us how this baby was conceived. They're not going to tell us what happens in the end. They're not going to tell us, this and that. I was like, oh shit, this is just going to be super slow and nothing is going to be resolved and this and that. And so we sat down, we watched it, and when it got over, we walked out, and I told Kaylee, and she agreed with me. I was like, that was surprisingly straightforward. Like, I don't have any questions after the film was over. Like, pretty much everything is self-explanatory for me. I didn't see the issue with anything. I feel like every question I would have had is answered there. There's certain things that you can figure out for yourself that I think are hinted at within the film that strengthens the story. But overall, getting to the point, I did like the movie. But A, it's a little too long, and B, it's not a film that I would recommend to pretty much anybody outside of the people who saw the trailer and were very, very interested. But I will say, if you have seen the trailer, you've seen the movie for the most part, and also the tone of the trailer is a tad misleading, because that God Only Knows song by the Beach Boys, it makes it seem like it's playful and whimsical and comedic, and while there can be comedic moments here and there, and I'm talking very, very few, the film is extremely slow, extremely sad, because this movie is really more about a family just kind of living out in the middle of nowhere and just trying to be normal amidst obviously something so abnormal. But they don't really treat the lamb called Ada really any different than a kid. So and as far as the horror aspect of it, while it is there kind of, I'd say it's 1% of the film. Now, Kaylee said that she felt that there was some atmosphere to this that felt kind of tense and this and that. I never really felt that. I felt that this film was mostly just drama. And there is some sad stuff, for sure. And the acting is fantastic. I mean, you expect this from Numi, so she's bringing it for sure. But it's a very subtle movie. I mean, super, super subtle. This is that film that I just said. I can't really recommend it to anybody because this is the kind of film so many people are going to hate. I mean, as usual with any A24 film, half the audience groaned out loud, were uncomfortably laughing in certain sequences, and they were just underwhelmed and or hated the fucking thing outright and were very vocal about it when the movie was over. But I was pretty surprised to see how many people were there. There was actually over maybe half the theater was full or more. So that did surprise me. And there were people that were like, oh yeah, I enjoyed it. I heard them like, oh, that was cool. So it does work for some people, but man, I really feel like if you watch the trailer and you realize that it's just kind of all the slow stuff in there, then maybe you'll like this if this is an intriguing plot to you. But there's not really much of a plot going on here. And there's not a lot of dialogue. I mean, the first like 15 minutes of the movie, I don't even know if a word is said. If it is, it's like one or two. And of course, this movie is also, in another language, so it's subtitled. So this is so not a film for everybody. That's why the wide release is kind of baffling to me. But whatever, people don't have to go and see anything, so who cares if it's released wide? I suppose. But yeah, I'm trying not to use the word odd or weird or like any of those weird words because not only is that obvious, but to me, the film didn't really feel all that bizarre when I was watching it. Because you kind of just get lost in the family and it really just kind of showcases the monotony of their life and how a child can bring joy to people. But it's not like there's all this witty, fun dialogue and all these super cute scenes or anything. Now, the lamb can look cute, and I did, care for it for sure, but I knew when it was wrapping itself up, and I kind of figured what was going to happen. But any questions I have, like where the baby, like how the baby was made, or any of that stuff, is all answered to me. So I don't know. I thought it was going to be a different way, but they actually showed me something that I was not expecting to see. And but yeah, don't go into this thinking it's some big horror movie that there's going to be all these like dark scenes and gore and none of that shit is happening in this film. So very slow. It's going to be very odd to people, and it's a very hard recommendation. Kind of reminds me of like The Green Knight in that way, where it's like, dude, I don't know who to recommend this to. So you'll know if you're the person to go see this. And as far as spoilers go, I mean, I'm not going to talk spoilers because there's very little to discuss in that department. I mean, yeah, I could get into the emotional impact that this has on especially the wife and why. But those would all just kind of be quick things. I don't know. The film isn't super deep, and I thought it was going to be pretentious, and it's really, I mean, maybe somebody could see it that way. Visually pretentious because it's just like scenery shots and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I could shave 15 minutes off this movie 100% and it wouldn't lose anything to me. And I think it'd be a better film for it because there are places where it just fucking drags. Although I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be like, it drags literally everywhere. There's nothing interesting or cool about this movie. Fuck this movie. That's fine. I just personally was enjoying it, and I think that other things dragged out so long that I was like, oh, if we would have tightened this up. But the film is tragic. The film is tragic, yet beautiful. And that's the point. And I think they got what they were going for. But let me know if you saw it. And if you're going to watch it, if this sounds awful to you, I completely understand. But let me know. Adios.